What's up, everyone? All right, in today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades from the morning. Right now, I'm sitting in the green on 4 out of the 4 stocks I traded. In fact, I didn't have a single losing trade today. 100% accuracy. That is solid. But as you know, if you've been tuning into my recaps from earlier in the week, something that I'm struggling with here in the month of September is that my average losers have been bigger than my average winners, which means in order to bring that profit-loss ratio sort of back into balance, I need one or two things to happen. Either to start having some huge winners, so the average winners get bigger, and that didn't happen today, or to start having a lot of small losses so I can bring down those average losers. Now, of course, if I have a lot of losses, it's going to reduce my accuracy. So this is kind of the challenge that we face if we pay too much attention to metrics. Now, I don't have to trade focused exclusively on what I can do to make my metrics better. At the end of the day, I want to be right about my bias of what I think is going to happen. That I get in and I think the stock's going to go higher and it goes higher. And if I can make money doing that, then at the end of the day, the profit-loss ratio, it'll be what it is. The reason that the average losers have been bigger this week is because suddenly the light switch turned on, and man, we were seeing unbelievable volatility. This is one of the wildest weeks we've had of the entire year. And look at that candle right there. That is a perfect example of what we're talking about. This stock just now looked like it was about to creep up here for the break of 11, and then suddenly, shoo, it flushes down, and it is now halted down at 970, WLDS. So WLDS dropped yesterday, if you were tuned in and watching it. It's a stock that I was up about $30,000 on I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I lost about $60,000 on it. I gave back everything I made. I went red on it by 28 grand. And it's, very frustrating. But nonetheless, yesterday morning, it had news right here of a secondary offering. Selling, it was 1 million shares at $4 a share to raise money. And so it sold off, as stocks typically do when you've got the news of an offering, but it did rally back up, surprisingly. Sold off again, rallied back up, sold off again, rallied back up. And so I took a trade on it right here this morning because I thought, man, even in spite of the offering news, this thing is holding up. And if it can break through the previous high of 1090, we've got something to work with. So WLDS, I jumped in it for the break of $10, and then I added for the break of 11. We got to squeeze up to a high of 1164. On WLDS, I made $14,887.61. However, then we got a second headline this morning, an additional offering, selling another, this time 670,000 shares right here at $6 a share to raise another $4 million. So, wow, we have now had 2 offerings in 2 days. This is a company that is raising money. So if we look at the trade that I took this morning, we'll back this up here. This wasn't the first trade I took, but we'll just cover it here first because it's sort of interesting. So as it popped up to 10, there was about a 30,000 share seller right there at 10. And so typically when we have a big seller on the ask like that, so it was $10 and the seller was showing 30 like this. And so then on the bid, you've got, 988, let's just say, and, there's like 20 or maybe even just 2. So, there's not a lot of buyers on the bid. So what I end up looking for is, and this is going to be the time in sales, as we come up to this level, this is what the level 2 looks like. I'm watching the candlestick chart and I'm seeing that we've got a flat top right here. So we come up the first time, I see the 30,000 share seller. I'm like, nah, it's no good. Sells off, comes up again, seller's still there. Comes up again, there's a couple people that buy at 10, but the seller doesn't really trim down that much. It goes from 30 to, 28. All right, so still a pretty big seller there. All right, so then anyone that bought there panics when this drops and doesn't break, and they sell and stop out. Then it rips back up, and a couple more people buy up here. So now it goes from 28 down to 22, let's just say, for example. And then next thing you know, it drops again. Then it comes back up again, and it goes, and this is where things start to get interesting. It goes, basically, we start seeing orders going through. These are buy orders on the time and sales, and it's like 21, and then it's like 20, and then it's like 19, 18, 17, and then it's 12, and then it's 8, and then it's 2, and then boom, what happens? The price goes up because that seller has moved, and suddenly this is showing 10.50, and we've just jumped up 50 cents a share. So now I'm in this at $10. It's showing 10.50. The bid is obviously moved up as well now to like 10.25. So we've got a little bit of a spread, but the bid's moved up. And then all of a sudden, more buyers are adding at 10.50. Then we see 10.70, 10.90, and then next thing you know, we're printing 11. All right, we're printing 11. There's a little seller at 11. It dips down for a second, then it breaks 11, and it goes straight to 11.50. We get that really nice juicy pop. And all the while, we're seeing lots of green flooding the time and sales. So I felt really confident taking this trade. I knew, well, I was confident taking the trade, but I also recognized that this did pose some risk because there wasn't a fresh catalyst. And so it was really pure continuation, definite potential, but they don't always work well. And then we had the news of the secondary offering in 2 days. And now we've got another drop right here. So, this is a stock, unfortunately, that is hard to trust. It was not the first stock I traded this morning. The first stock I traded this morning was GCTK. GCTK is currently up about 95%. It's got news. Relative volume is 67. The float is less than 1 million shares, and it's got 32 million shares of volume, or 34 million, and it's priced just under $10 a share. So this morning at about 5 a.m., it starts popping up, pulling back, popping up, pulling back, popping up, popping up, popping up, pulling back. So where did I take my first trade? Right here, 7 a.m. So 7 a.m., this thing pops up, or just before 7 a.m., it was already popping up a bit. So we got this squeeze right here, and I took my first trade on this one at 11.65. I added 11.70, I added at 12, and then next thing you know, it's printing $13. I'm up over $1 a share. So now I'm like, I am in the driver's seat big time. Goes sideways, I add, goes up to 14, I take some profit. It dips back down. I add on the dip off of 13, it goes back up to 14.50, I take some more profit. It dips back down, I add, it goes a little bit lower, and I stop out of the rest of the position. Now, I had a position from here to here. And so this is total one trade. So even though I added a little higher on some of the shares, and some of the shares I sold for a loss, from the beginning to the end, produced a profit. It was a profit of about $30,000, which is fantastic. Now here, we came back up, and I said, I'm not taking this trade. Why not? Look at the MACD. The MACD here was negative. So finally, a little more focused this week. So I said, nope, I'm not taking that trade. And then it ends up dropping, halting down at the open and kind of going sideways. It's still up, 100%, but at that point, it was our leading gapper. And in that moment there, we were up from the previous close 200%. So nice 200% squeeze. So that got the day started with 30 grand. Fantastic. Next trade after GCTK was WLDS, 15,000. Now I'm up 45,000 on the day. Fantastic. Day's getting even better. So at that point, we had UOKA. UOKA pops up on the scans. It's a Chinese stock, no clear news. I'm a little iffy on it, but it was moving. So it pops up here, it pulls back, it pops up a little higher, and it squeezes here. I didn't take that trade, but I did buy the next pullback right here, and I got that little leg higher. So that's fine. I didn't get this maybe cleaner trade because I wasn't totally sure about it. But once the volume came in, I was like, okay, I can work with this. So I bought that dip right there from that final breakout higher. So that was UOKA. And then we had COCP. COCP, a little bit of a cheaper stock. Don't totally love these, but it was grinding higher. It had a doji candle right here at about $3. And I thought, all right, this is going to be the high. It's probably going to reverse, right? It sells off, and then suddenly it rips back up to 3. And so I jumped in it right here for the break of 3. And this thing goes all the way to 4. So that was the solid trade right there on COCP. That gave me about $10,000 of profit. And then as it came back up right here, I got one more trade, but with smaller size. And we ended up double topping here right around 4. So that ended up being it for me. And that was a little bit riskier, and the MACD actually was slightly. Well, so here's the thing. I kept thinking it was about to flip positive, but these higher volume red candles, yeah, that was tricky. And the topping tails here, it was tricky. So that was that. That trade was around 8:35 this morning. And then I sat and I kind of waited. And I was like, all right, what's going to be next? You know, we had HCWB from earlier this morning. Was that going to pop back up? No. HUIZ, was that going to keep going? No. QMMM, this one, you know, made a big squeeze from 90 to 170, but pulled back. Spreads are huge, price is high. Ford, this one popped up, dipped back down, didn't work. AGAE, this one popped up. Headline about investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but no money attached to it, no dollar amount. So some of the headlines that have worked well have been when the company got like a $10 million private or a $100 million private placement or $1 billion private placement. So this had no money. So to me, it's like, well, what are they going to buy, like $10,000 worth? How much are they even buying? So I didn't trust that, didn't take a trade on it. And yeah, although WLDS ended up squeezing a little bit at the open, I just didn't feel like I didn't have any trade from the last trade, which was at about 8:35 or 8:40 until, you know, the opening bell. So now I've gone like almost an hour without trading. And I kind of thought, all right, I think the writing's on the wall that I should call it. And so I sat and watched. And as we came up to the top of the hour 10, I said, I think I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to be done. So I know we have a IPO today, Gemini Space Station, GEMI. So this is showing current price of $34 a share. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm not interested in taking the risk on it. I sometimes will do well trading day one of an IPO. I think this has a chance at, you know, giving you some volatility, and there'll probably be some opportunities, but I don't know. This one's kind of weird. You know, global space station, a global crypto platform, 15 million shares, offering price 28 a share. I don't know. I'm just kind of, I don't know. Honestly, to me, it's not worth it. I think this is, you know, the problem with a lot of these IPOs is that by the time they're IPOing, it's just like, you just miss the boat so badly on it. So, I mean, all the like early investors are just sitting in such an amazing place. Now they do have a lockout period, so they can't sell right away, but nonetheless, I don't have interest in it. So that's where I sit here today, $63,785.72. That's going to put me up to about 370 on the month, and average daily gain is 77,000. So really can't complain too much about that. I was a little below the average daily gain today, but not by much. So I'm going to keep, you know, pedal to the metal, being aggressive. I'll be back at it bright and early Monday morning. And for those of you guys that haven't already done a 2-week trial, make sure you sign up over the weekend. You can be studying. You can be going through some of the classes that we've made available for members that are part of the trial, so you can really get a sense of how I'm trading, how my strategy works. You can learn a ton. And then by Monday morning, you're already kind of at least somewhat up to speed with what I'm going to be looking for. All right, so make sure you guys join that 2-week trial. It's 2 weeks for $20. You're going to get a ton of value out of it. And I'll remind you, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical. Ups and downs, easy come, easy go. Make sure you are practicing in a simulator before you put real money on the line. And I'll see you guys back at it bright and early, 7 a.m. I'll be streaming on Monday morning. And I'll tell you, if you're going to keep trading today, Friday, as the day goes on, just size down. Make sure you don't make a big mistake going into the weekend, because that never feels good. All right, I'll see you guys on Monday.